Before I start the book, thank you a lot, Mohit, for getting me here and review this book. I was not a book reader, I think, my entire college, school, because my dad and my sister were avid book readers. They were so crazy into books that I hated it. But I think eventually you grow old and then you pick it up. So that's how I ended up. So by the time I started working, and Bombay has a lot of time in travel, I started reading in the train, in the cab, in the bus, and that's how I'm a reader. When I read this book and then I met Mohit, the only person that I could think of instantly in India, not like great leaders, but normal people who are originals, one is Mohit. Because I think he's doing so many things, and every time I meet him and ask him, "Kaise kar lete ho?" And there's a lot of original stuff which he comes with. And I'm going to talk about what that means by reviewing this book and how it's inspired me tremendously in the last 7 years, 8 years to do things the way I'm doing on it. The second person I want to thank is my husband, because I'm going to use a lot of our personal life instances without his permission. So I'm thanking him in advance. He's sitting right behind. And nothing controversial. We are not Kim Kardashian and Kanye West that you will get secrets from our life. It's very normal life. But we'll use some instances and how I could relate to this book far more than what I thought I would. Now, the book gives you a definition, which is an adjective and a noun on what originals mean. But what resonated with me was that what original means is a thing of singular or unique character. And you know, right since my childhood, I thought I was unique. Nobody thought. I believed in because I was second child. My sister was a gold medalist, topper, Chennai, Tambrams, first Aana Chahiye. And this is the daughter who was not coming first, who was not good in sports, who was not reading books, who was not studying, who will be the last bencher, who will have stomachache every day in morning to go to school, you know. So I had a unique character to myself. And I thought I was genuinely original as a child, because what I liked doing was different stuff, like daydreaming, staring at blank walls, hiding in some corner of the house so that nobody spots me. These were my unique characters, but I truly believe that it'll help me in some time. And today I'm in advertising. Trust me, that helps. The first interesting point in this book was he's actually analyzed the risky business of going against the grain. And that's what I believe that my unique character was. So if my mom says, "Aise mat baithna, aise baithna," I'm like, why? You know, I question the known grain of anything that happens at home. Or I've been called in the principal's room because I didn't finish the homework. Because I said I didn't feel like I found the homework dumb. I didn't want to do it. You know, you can't give 100 max problems to solve overnight. That's stupid. You know, I've had these conversations with my teachers, and I've been called to principal room enough. But I never got my parents to know that. That's originality. Same way, he talks about how many of you all of us use web browsers today, if you're using a desktop or a laptop. How many of us use Internet Explorer? Does it exist? Okay, sorry. How many of us use Safari? Okay. And how many of us use Chrome? It's quite a bit. And Firefox? No. UC browser? It's banned in India. कैसे use करते हो? चल रहा है आप क्या? बताना पड़ेगा. But so I'm a hardcore Chrome user, and my husband's a Safari user. And the book says that people who actually don't go for default settings, Internet Explorer and Safari are typically default to your computers, right? Whether you have a Microsoft led laptop or an Apple led laptop. He says that these are default settings, and people who question the default, and a Chrome user or a Firefox user is actually probing into the default and downloading something else and experimenting with it. Now, my husband had a reverse argument to it, that he actually downloaded all these, didn't like, and that's why he went back to Safari, because he's a hardcore Apple fan. So we believe that we are originals in that sense, because I also explored Firefox. I was on Firefox for a very long time, till they had an upgrade, and then it started crashing so much. So in reality, not many were using Firefox because it's kind of died in its own ecosystem, and it's not as popular as it used to be, and Chrome has taken it over along with Safari. But he essentially says that originals are people who question what is a norm, and a habit that is very important for anybody who wants to be original person. Now we don't know. How do you define? I mean, मैं आज उठ के बोलूँगा आज मैं original हूँ. ऐसा, it doesn't work like that. You have to actually start doing some stuff, which I'll talk about in the end, and how it helped me. The other beautiful point, which actually was in your book on the Einstein dreams also, you were talking about this whole cycle where people are doing the same thing over and over again. I've done this before. I don't have a memory, but my everyday life is the same, right? And then next day is the same. I meet the same people, eat the same food. That's called deja vu. You know, I remember like this, I've gone somewhere and I've seen the same sari somewhere. I've met her before, Vani before, yes, I have. But that, you know, deja vu. Now, the opposite of deja vu is vuja de, which I love this word. When I first heard it almost 8-9 years back, was in a creativity workshop, and I was like, ये क्या है, ये गोरे आके कुछ भी बोल देते हैं. But it was actually so impactful in my life, and I saw this coming up again in this book, which was gaining new insights to old problems, which means there is a path like this, which is any Tambram girl you would have met has to do a CA or be a banker, have an arranged marriage, go for the Singapore, US. This is the norm. Here's one who's never topped in school, college, did MBA to just run away from home. So just done being with my parents. Met a Rajasthani, married one. Got a kid after 13 years of marriage, and now struggling to deal with the fact that we have a 5-year-old at home. Which is quite a bit, because he has a lot of Vuja Day moments with him. Mama, आपने आज ये pajama क्यों पहना? Because दूसरा wash के लिए गया है, क्या करूँ? Mama, आप मुझे yes बोलोगे कि ना बोलोगे? I'm like, what is the question? So I have a lot of Vuja Day moments in real life, but I think as a professional, as about running a company or as about dealing with people, which I'm very passionate about, finding those Vuja Day moments and different routes for different problems, challenges, opportunities, and how we open that up becomes very interesting for me. I mean, Vuja Day has been a motto for me now for almost 8-9 years, where I look at a thing and I say, okay, how can I address it differently? So one victim is my husband, the other is my kid, and the third is my parents, who have to deal with me practicing that with them all the time. And then I deploy it back in office, so that the office, it looks like, oh, she knows it all. But the reality is I'm practicing it in day-to-day life as well, saying, how do I look at something quite differently than what maybe it's done in the past? And the book also says about originals are such people who look at new insights into old problems. Very interesting. Oh, this I love. He's talking about prisoners of prototypes and parochial preferences. I'm a big movie buff and TV buff. Like if I ever don't work or I'm just going to be at home ever, it'll just be me watching TV 24/7. I mean, I can do that. I've done my entire childhood like that, so I can do that in my next phase also. But the interesting bit is he actually talks about programs like Seinfeld or Lord of the Rings movie, which never took off, which was rejected. Because there is a prototype thinking that, they tested with an audience, and people in marketing and advertising know this so well, that you do creative testing, it bombs, and then you release the ad out of sheer gut, and it's a success. It's like that. These shows never saw the light of the day because they felt that it just doesn't fit in the current scheme of things, the way programming was at that point. It took one producer who was not from a comedy programming genre to actually pick up Seinfeld and put it on a primetime show and make it run. I mean, Seinfeld, still we watch it. Like, we love watching Seinfeld. If you look back into India, Balaji Telefilms is a classic example where Ekta Kapoor went door to door to sell Hum Panch. There are still people from my generation in this room, thankfully. So Hum Panch was a very popular serial about a father, wife, and husband, wife, and 5 daughters. It was such a big hit, but she struggled to sell it. Finally, Zee bought it, and Zee put it on as a primetime show. Today, they're talking about reviving that again. Sholay, movie. Any other movies that we can think of? Lagan. Lagan, Ashutosh Gawrekar went to Amir Khan with the script. He rejected it. He said, no, I don't think it's sitting in well. Go back, write it again. Some 3 times he went back and forth before he agreed for Lagan. So there are such prototypes that we think, and we get trapped into it. Again, Tambram girl, can't be creative. We have to do maths, CA. or engineering. But so the prototypes work very well, right? Like my mom keeps telling my husband, Marwadi chai piyega? And he's like, पर मैं तो मारवाड़ी नहीं हूँ. मैं तो राजस्थानी हूँ पर मारवाड़ी नहीं हूँ. Prototypes are at play all the time. How do we break those prototypes? How do we go with little more of a grain? Again, you step out, you get a Vuja Day moment, you then come back. So that's how you break the prototypes. Now, these are all songs. Just because I have a 5-year-old doesn't mean I write this. But the topic here in the book was unfamiliarity breeds contempt. Okay, so not many would know me because I'm not a very popular speaker or a writer or anything. It's thanks to Mohit I'm here. But the book talks about a very interesting thing that, okay, all of you have heard these songs, Happy Birthday to You, May He Had a Little Lamb. Now, I'm going to sing one song in my mind, and I'm going to make a clap, and you have to guess which song is it, okay? Okay? Very good. Very good. Now, what if we had to do this with all our thoughts? Will everybody get it? The book says there are only 2.5 times that people get this. So you're thinking of something in your mind, and you're tapping the song. I'm very good at it, so you guys got it. But not all are so good, right? In the way they express. So the book says that you actually have a lot of thoughts in your mind. And original thoughts, right? Unless you speak it out, you will not know how it's going to be original or how you're going to execute it. To give another example is that, किसी पे बहुत गुस्सा आता है, and you have a script in your mind कि next time I will meet that person, मैं पकड़ के सुनाऊंगा. And you meet the person and you're blurting it all out, and you realize that it's not landing the same way that I'm thinking in my mind. You didn't practice. The whole point is you have to keep on repeating it, and loud. The book says that the more we have thoughts, original thoughts in our mind, the more we speak it loud, the more we talk to people about it or open it up from our mouth and not just keep it here. One way people do it is write. But I would always, I was like that, but at the minute I started speaking about it, doors opened up for me automatically. It's somewhere you're actually expressing yourself strongly and you're practicing how it'll land with others. So how do you go about doing that? So the biggest learning from this book is that speak out and repeat. Keep repeating. Don't bore, but just speak out and repeat. The other personal impact that I had, a year and a half back, I was in this dilemma of wanting a change in my job, and I had a very good job, no doubts about that. I was quite good at my work, everybody liked it, but I was just restless. I wanted to grow, I wanted to do something else, and the book also refers to a situation like that, and you have 4 choices. You can change the situation, you can maintain the status quo, you can, and whatever you decide can be detrimental to the organization or beneficial to the organization. And it talks about how in each of the quadrant, how are you going to behave and navigate. So if you decide to exit, if I had decided to exit, which I was not sure at that time, then I had to change the situation I was in. I had to move my ass and make a CV because I've never made a CV for myself. Or call up 2 consultants and talk to them. It would have been detrimental to the organization for a certain period of time because organizations are powerful enough to move, thankfully. But yes, at that point of time, it is detrimental. If I wanted it to be beneficial to the organization, I can voice. So I walked up to 4 key stakeholders in the organization and pitched to them why I should have a change of role and why you should give it to a woman and not to a man also, because there was this whole lobbying thing I was doing on the women leadership bit. And they didn't have any women CEOs in their organization. So that was a very tricky situation for them, and they were aware of it, so those conversations, I used it. I voiced my opinion. Nothing happened, I had to quit. But nevertheless, I tried, and I'm glad I'm tried because that made me practice my pitch to my new company where they were in dialogue with me for almost a year to join. So that helped me. Now, being original in each of these quadrants will, actually in the upper quadrant, will help you decide, change your life. If you're maintaining a status quo and it is beneficial to the organization, great. But if you're maintaining your status quo and it's detrimental, you're those kind of guys, then you come to office, just do basic work to, not get sacked, and then just do something else in life maybe. But then quitting before leaving is a mental state. And that's where one should be conscious, and it's a very useful tool that he's provided in a very simple way with some examples, and that's kind of inspired me, and I tried both the exit and the voice route to take a call in my life, and today, last 1 year, I've been working in a different organization as a CEO. So that's helped me match my ambitions. This one I love. Like, remember I said I was a daydreamer, I could stare at walls for hours? Procrastination. I was famous for that. The reason I didn't get great numbers was not because I was dumb, but just procrastination of taking a book and studying. This book says it's good. This book says procrastinators is a very important trait because you pause and think a lot. All the procrastinators out here, please, of course, act upon it later, because if you don't act upon it, then it's lost. It's about fools rushing in, saying, I saw an opportunity, let me just jump into it. And most of, at least the advertising world that I come from in India, we just rush in. We just don't pause, reflect, think, and say, okay, how am I going to approach this client? Can I buy time? Can I take my time? Can I think about this solution? The timelines are in a rush, and but we're not doctors. We're not in the business of saving lives. I know there are a lot of marketing guys here, but yeah, there's a neutral put. But we're not in the business of saving lives. We're selling products. So in advertising, I think that big thing that I learned was not to rush in, and I don't. I use my procrastination strength to give it little time, daydream, use my travel to think through it, and then go back with a thought. And many times I confess that I am not comfortable with what I'm presenting, but you want us to give it in such a short time, but ideally I would like to take another week, 10 days, whatever is permissible at that point of time. So many times, the last minute pressure gives us that, aha, I got that idea. I got that thing that I want to solve it. And that's where the procrastination helps, because it gives you a lot of pressure last minute to think creatively, get the deja vu out of you. Last 2 points. The slippery slope of parenting. How many of you are firstborn? Wonderful. Secondborn? Third? Very good, very good. So the second and the third born are supposed to be far more, what's the word would I use in jugaad and chalu, because they've learned the survival skills because the parents let go. And that's what this book talks about, that the first child you obsess. Did he breathe enough? Did he pee enough? Did he eat enough? Did this teacher in the class keep a focus on my child, or is the teacher looking at all the 35 other kids only and not my child? And by the time you have your second, third child, you really don't care. It's like, is he alive? Great, move on. He will fend for himself because they know I'm a second child. I'm a second child, survival. And I have copied my sister's Hindi submissions 3 years later and survived. I got more marks than her for that. Survival. It rocks, because you learn how to, get out of this trap of parents, and you become figuring out your own life in your own way, and you're well protected by the siblings. So the siblings become your quasi-parents. So this book also talks about that, it talks about a baseball game and how the successful hitters are people who are the second borns, and they have statistics over some 30 years. And they talk about how the most successful hitters are the second borns and the third borns and not the first borns. The 80% of them are second borns. Not because they are practiced enough, it's just the survival instinct has kicked in. I'll just wrap it up after this. This is about using nouns in the way we describe things. So for example, you look at your child's painting, a very shabby painting, and you say, what a wonderful one, so nice you are, okay? Now that's not a noun, but if you praise by saying, I look at your effort, and you have made a wonderful effort in trying to draw. You're not praising the painting, you're praising the effort of the child. Similarly, in campaigns which says don't drink and drive, what if we change it to don't be a drunk driver? The impact it will have, the way you look at words from a noun, is far more powerful. Or if you tell somebody, don't be a cheat, to become a don't be a cheater. Sorry, don't cheat to don't be a cheater. It's an act of cheating versus living a life of a cheater. So this, I have seen it impact my kid because I use a lot of behavior acknowledgements for him. And we were out at a friend's over the weekend, and they put a video after lunch for the kids to see Hotel Transylvania 2. He enjoyed it. While we were, he said, Charumasi, thank you so much for showing us a movie. I was very happy to see it today. And I said, Ye mera bacha? He's become so nice. But it's a habit that we follow to acknowledge his behavior. And I think even as in organizations, in personal life, we start acknowledging behavior using nouns, you'll see that big difference. And that's another sign of originality. What was interesting in the book that is it had immense ideas on step-by-step on what you can do to put this into action in life. And I have done some of it, not all of it. There are actions for impact in original ideas, voicing and championing, managing emotions, for leaders, for parents, for students. And it's very helpful. So if you can't read the whole book, I would recommend just read the last bit. So that's a cheat sheet, though I've read the whole book. But it's very interesting to see some of it coming to action the more you practice it in life. Ones that I practice, because I will practice what I preach, so that's why this book came into being, is trying to be different and better. Oh, thoda extra tadka har cheez mein dal sakti hu kya? You know, that's my life motto. I am a quick starter, so I should have become an accountant, but I know maths very well. I know statistics well. I learned it at this recent past. I'm learning to be a coach. So I'm learning a lot, but I'm also a slow thinker. I don't now rush in, because earlier my habit was to rush in everything. So I take time to move into the next step. I question the defaults, because that's my job as a CEO. I have to question defaults, otherwise it's not healthy for the organization, but the right kind of questions. And moved away from deja vu to Vuja Day. I think Vuja Day is the primary thing that motivated me to read this book and come around. So thank you very much for listening. And here's to more originals in this group.